says, King David says, serve God with joy. There's a service involved. It requires effort. It requires sitting down and really putting yourself, exerting yourself in order to relook at a situation as best as you can. And there are days when you'll try as hard as you can and you can't do it. There'll be days where you're going to need to call somebody on the phone and have them help you do it. Right? Sometimes you need to, grab from whatever it is. Sometimes you need to read a book. Sometimes you need to just not think about it. Right? Sometimes you need to give yourself time to heal before you can revisit the whole thing again. Right? That's a very important part. Sometimes, a person who goes through abuse, they need to first get away from the abuse before they can start looking at it in the positive. Right? So these are all important things to keep in mind. What we're discussing here is the perspective that once a person has now allowed themselves to heal or to move away from that source of pain, now how do I take it, this negative experience, and transform it into something positive? How do I move forward? The Torah doesn't tell us why bad happens all the time. Sometimes it does. But there are many things that happen when we don't have that answer to. The Torah does say what to do in the face of tragedy.
Just like if you break a glass or a container, and you're supposed to say automatically mazel tov. So you can kind of think of it that way.
Right. So you can sort of transform it into a happy thing. There's actually a saying in Yiddish that says Zalman kapara, which means it should be a kapara, should be an atonement. Let's say you do something, and we're talking about minimal, like minor things. You stub your toe, you drop a glass. So these are things where you can sort of comfort yourself by saying that this little bit of pain is going to save me from a lot of pain later on. In other words, God does us favors sometimes, where we may deserve something. Maybe we deserve something really terrible, but God says, you know what? I love this person so much. I'm not going to give them the terrible thing. Let me give them a little small thing, right? And then let's see how they deal with it. If they take it as an opportunity to grow and to direct their thoughts towards me, so that's it. Why do I need to give them the thing they deserve? Who wants that? Right? That God's not looking to punish us. So we say, Zalzaina Kapar, it should be an atonement. Okay.
Isn't that, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Isn't that like testing? You're testing the person to see how they're going to respond to that?
Yes.
Okay, because yesterday I had, my cousin and I, we were out, and I thought my purse, I had left, not my purse, but my little wallet with all my, oh my gosh, my driver's license and my credit cards and everything in the store, and I went back and they said they didn't have it. And sure enough, when I got home, I thought, okay, I have to call, the bank, and I have to call this one, I have to call that one. It was late. And then my cousin said, well, why don't you take the seat and push it back? And there it was, stuck in there. But I did not get upset. I decided, okay, if this is what I have to learn, if whatever, I'll just go through it. And so maybe that was what you're saying.
One of the concepts is this, is that everything that happens is also meant for a lesson for us. It's meant for us to somehow extract the message. Baal Shem Tov said this. He said, everything you see or hear is meant to be a message for you and how to serve God. And when we get the message, the teacher doesn't have to be there anymore. So that's part of, if you want to control the situation, right? If you want to say, I have some control over this, the only control you have is get the message. Okay? Because whether or not a person suffering will come and go in our lives, we can do everything we can. We can try everything we can to prevent suffering, But like King Solomon said, it's not the wise person who always has the bread. It's not the fast person who always wins the race. It's not the strong person who always wins the battle. There are so many variables that are out of our control that it becomes obvious to us at some point, if we're willing to accept this idea, that really it's all in God's hands. In fact, the Torah says before you're born, it's already been predetermined who you will marry, whether you will be well or ill, whether you will be rich or poor. And it says the only thing left in your hands is to be righteous or wicked. The way you deal with the situation is up to you. But the situation itself is not within your control. But in one sense, though, the situation is in your control. By learning from it, by using it to serve God in the way God intended, that can hasten the healing or the salvation or whatever it is, because once the lesson's been learned, there's no need for the lesson. And there's another interesting thought. In Hebrew, who knows what the word for test or trial is? Anyone? The word is, what is it?
Mishpat.
No. The word is nisayon. Nisayon has the root nes, nun sama. And nes has two meanings. One is miracle. Right? Another translation is banner or a flag, something that you hold high. The idea being is that a test is really an opportunity to hold yourself high, to rise above the challenge. And that's all it's meant to be. So that's one of the meanings behind the word. That's why the Hebrew is, that's why you use that particular word. Yeah?
It's hard for me to wrap myself around this eternal optimism theory.
Okay.
But from the standpoint of Mumbai and
Yes.
the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin,
Yes.
what's the hidden good? What's the revealed good in their death?
There's more hidden good here than I'm privy to. However, I was listening to a lecture from a Rabbi Manis Friedman, and he made a very interesting observation. He said that when Moses died, it says that he died the ideal death. He was brought to Har Nevo, the mountain of Nevo, and he was laid on a bed, a comfortable bed, and there were cushions and so on. It says he died peacefully. God kissed him, and his soul left through his mouth. And it was like plucking a piece of hair off milk. It was so, the soul just left without any problem, without any suffering, I should say. And yet, that idealistic death did nothing for the world. It did nothing for people. It may have been exalted, but what happened in Mumbai, how do you pronounce Mumbai?
Yeah,
Mumbai?
yeah.
Okay. Is infinitely holy.